There's a line in the immortal movie Dumb and Dumber that goes something like, just when I thought you couldn't do anything dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. Such is the case of Mavs owner Patrick Dumont, who tries to explain why he traded Luka Doncic, with the exception of the total redemption piece. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Let's suffer through this incoherent explanation together.
How did you frame a decision of such magnitude like this?
So, tough decisions are never easy.
Whoa. Mind-blowing stuff right off the bat. Tough decisions are never easy. No kidding. It's like saying giants are never small. Yeah, because inherently, if a tough decision is easy, it ain't a tough decision. We're off to a great start.
And part of leadership is looking at risk and looking at all the factors of a decision and being willing to act at that time and look to the long term and not only think about the short term or how it may be received immediately, but to think about the long-term benefits and what it may allow you to achieve if given all the right considerations.
Okay, so first of all, there's two things here. So he's talking about looking to the long-term future, and I'll talk more about that and why that is an idiotic statement in its own right. But when he's talking about is delayed gratification, for one thing, he's talking about sometimes you have to look to the future and look at the long-term effects of something. And he's absolutely right. And that's true just in our lives. That's true in a lot of different areas. Sometimes a little pain in the short term is worth the long-term gain. And again, there's a lot of different areas of life that we could apply that to. So he's not wrong when he says something like that. However, when he's talking about, part of leadership is sometimes you're making these decisions that are going to be, poorly received in the moment. Well, yeah, sometimes that is leadership. Sometimes leadership is making very difficult decisions that aren't going to be popular with people and being able to stand by that decision. Sometimes that's leadership. Sometimes it's also stupidity. Sometimes a decision is unpopular because it's the wrong decision, and a lot of other people can see that, thus making it an unpopular decision. Sometimes we confuse that situation for leadership. We picture ourselves as, well, everybody's telling me not to, but I'm being a leader. I'm being a trailblazer. I'm forging ahead when others are telling me I'm wrong, and I'm going to prove them all wrong. And we get this kind of like this pushback, this bravado. And sometimes it winds up actually damaging ourselves. And it kind of feels like that's what's happening here. Like, oh, everybody said, don't do something crazy like trading Luka, but just watch me. I'm going to make this move, and then I'm going to be able to tell everybody, I was right, and look, everybody told me I was wrong. And who knows, maybe Patrick Dumont will be proven right. Maybe they wind up winning an NBA championship. But sometimes when a decision is poorly received, it's not leadership. It's not trailblazing. It's just because it was a dumb decision.
And I think for us, going into the trade deadline last year, we were not competitive. If you recall, we were not a playoff-bound team. And we were able to do some things to reconstruct the roster and enable the team to become very competitive. And after the trade deadline last year, we actually had the best record in basketball, which was a big accomplishment. And we got to the championship games, and we didn't win. And so we had to decide, how do we get better? What can we do to improve our team?
Now, most teams in this situation, he's absolutely right. And this is a conversation every team has to have in the offseason. How do we get better? What do we do? What do you do? So even if you win the title, you have to sit down. How do we get better? Right? That's the way the sport goes. You're constantly looking to get better. But most teams in this situation, you go to the NBA Finals. Yes, they'll say, if you don't win it, they're going to say, how do we get better? The answer is not going to be blow it up because you were so close. The answer is not going to be blow it up. It's going to be, let's make a little tweak here. Let's make a little tweak there. Right? That's typically the answer. Obviously, they went down a different path here.
And so we looked at our trajectory during the season and realized that we did not get better. But the teams that we competed against, some of which we beat, did get better. And ultimately, when you look at the Eastern Conference, after we were to get through the Western Conference, if we're so fortunate, you would have to beat some very formidable teams, including one that we lost to, which actually got better.
Now, did the Celtics actually get better? I mean, I think they pretty much brought back the same team, relying on chemistry and growth and that continued familiarity, which is, again, is what most teams do. And there is value to that, to keeping the same team together, building that chemistry, building that cohesiveness year after year. There is real value to that in a league that sees constant player movement and constant turnover. But he's saying we looked at it and thought, okay, even if we omit the Celtics from this, did the Cavs get better in the East? Sure. Yeah, the Cavs got better. But again, a lot of that was built on consistency. But then look at the West. Who made moves to get better? There were a number of teams that made moves to try to get better that feel like they're in contention right now. So, okay, all right. Hey, teams around you are getting better. Got it, right? That makes sense. That's something to be concerned about.
So this was a decision about the future. If you look at our roster today and who we have, we feel like we position ourselves to be incredibly competitive against the best teams in the NBA. And if you're a fan of basketball, I'll just throw that out there, you have Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and either Daniel Gafford or Derek Lively as your starting five. That's going to put fear into a lot of teams in the league if we can get going.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Right? And so
okay, obviously he's not speaking to basketball fans here, because if you were, the immediate response should be, that's not a starting five. If that's your starting five, if it's Kyrie, Klay as your two, look, you got a time machine. You want to hop into the DeLorean, hit 88 miles per hour and go back to 10 years ago. Yeah, go get that Klay. Then yes. Then you've got Klay as a two. He's not a two anymore. He's not. He's much more of a three than a two. And then you're also asking PJ Washington, who's probably more four than three, to play out of position as well. So in that starting five, now, are those maybe your five most talented players? Sure, potentially they're your five most talented players. But is that a starting five that is, as he says, strikes fear into a lot of teams? Probably not. In fact, case in point, Klay Thompson this season, Klay Thompson has spent 65% of his minutes at small forward, 31% of his minutes at power forward, 3% of his minutes at shooting guard, according to Clean and Glass. He's not a two anymore. So if the premise going into this was, cool, now we've got this badass starting five with Klay Thompson at the two, that's not this dude anymore. He's older. He's slower. Guys tend to move up a position when that happens. Guys tend to go bigger. They go from being twos to being threes, or threes to fours, and so on. And so in that starting lineup that he's trumpeting here, you've got two guys at least who are playing out of position. But nonetheless, let's say he just says, hey, these are our five best players. Maybe you tweak rotations and things like that to capitalize. Okay, but if the goal was, this is our five-man grouping, you've got some problems there with that group. Not saying they're not good, but you've got some problems.
the objective was, how do we create a roster for the future that allows us to be the most competitive team? I've said it all along. I don't know if you heard what I said when we actually bought the team from Mark, but we want to win championships. We want to be...
Okay. All right. Oh my God. So we wanted to create a roster for the future, is what he says. We want to create... Yeah, the way to create a roster for the future is definitely trading a 25 at the time year old Luka Doncic for a Anthony Davis who's now just turned 32. Kyrie Irving is on the verge of turning 33. What are we talking about building a roster for the future? That's insane. You're going to build a roster for the future by trading for a dude that's 6 years older than the guy that you're trading away? That's how you're going to create a roster for the future? No. What the Mavs have done, and it's okay if you want to make this argument, if you want to say, hey, we really wanted to win right now. Okay, it doesn't. I don't think it's the right decision, but at least it's a defensible to say, hey, we really decided if we put this group together, we can win right now. And that's what we wanted to focus on. That's more what Nico Harrison was talking about, right? That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to build a roster that could win right now. Hey, you want to make that argument? Okay. All right. At least you've got a leg to stand on there, right? But we did this to build for the future. What are you talking about? You've given yourself at best 3-year window. And guess what? Maybe you didn't foresee this coming. I know they have lengthy injury histories, but maybe you still didn't see this coming. But you have a 3-year window. Year 1 is slam shut. It's gone. Kyrie's hurt. It's gone. Year 2, because of Kyrie's injury, may also be gone. Anthony Davis is hurt right now as well, by the way. Might as well not even bring him back this year. Just let him stay home, rest, recover, heal up, see you next year, right? Year 2. Let's say AD starts the year. Kyrie's not coming back. Not to middle of the year at best, maybe. But the problem with an ACL injury like this is oftentimes when the player comes back, they're not themselves. Not for another year after they come back that they finally get back to be themselves. So now we're looking at year one is gone. You've got a 3-year window. Year one is gone immediately. Year two may also be gone. Year two may also be gone. And then that leaves you what? Year three, when Kyrie is 34, turning 35? Anthony Davis, 33, turning 34? That's your 1 year window. That's it. That's building for the future. That's creating a roster for the future. What are we talking? That makes no sense whatsoever. No sense.
A winning franchise for the city of Dallas, and we want to be one of character, one of community involvement, and one where we sort of carry on the legacy of the Dallas Mavericks in the right way.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. One of character, right? You got to make sure you take those little digs at Luka. Well, part of the reason why we traded him, we really want to be a team of character. And we saw this dude has a beer every now and then. So I don't even have to explain myself that obviously the character, he does not check that box. How dare he? How dare he have a beer every now? By the way, the Mavs ownership now, how they made their money is through gambling. Yeah, how dare Luka have a beer every now and then? It just, look, Mavs fans, I'm sorry. I feel for you. It makes no sense. It makes no, again, if you want to double down on the whole, we wanted to win right now, short term, okay. All right, at least I guess that's a bit defensible. But trying to say that you were building for the future, that was the point. That's what you say when you trade your 31, 32, 33-year-old player for a 24-year-old player, 23-year-old player, or a draft pick, or somebody who's not nearly as accomplished. That's what you say when you make that trade, not when you trade your 25-year-old superstar for a dude who's turning 32 years old and also has a lengthy injury history. I've yet to see an argument that makes sense for the Mavs side as far as why this happened. And now Patrick Dumont, I mean, that was, look, again, to bookend this, there's a classic line in the movie Billy Madison that goes something like, nowhere in your incoherent, rambling answer was anything resembling a coherent thought. And we are now dumber for having listened to it, and may God have mercy on your soul. Yeah, that's Patrick Dumont right now. That everything he said just made no sense. And oh my God. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe right here to the channel. Mavs fans, I'm sorry. I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry.